They say winter reveals who people really are. When survival is on the line, masks fall away, and you see what someone is truly made of. Steam rises from a cup of hot chocolate, swirling like breath in the frigid air. The camera pulls back slowly, revealing 16-year-old Dela sitting completely alone in the sprawling cafeteria of Madison High School. Outside the massive windows, snow falls in thick, relentless sheets across the Wisconsin landscape. She's wearing a bright yellow California sunshine t-shirt, sunshine in a world that hasn't seen the sun in weeks. The contrast is jarring, deliberate. Every other student is bundled in layers of fleece and denim, their conversations creating a warm buzz that somehow doesn't include her. Dela wraps her hands around the mug, her fingers still tan from a California winter that barely existed, and stares out at a parking lot where the snow is already knee-deep. She doesn't know it yet, but in 3 hours, that parking lot will become a battlefield. And the girl who spent 8 years learning to never throw the first punch is about to discover what happens when someone finally throws the last one. Madison, Wisconsin, population 15,000 and shrinking, sits like a forgotten promise in the heart of America's dairyland. It's the kind of place where everybody knows everybody, where the biggest news is usually who's dating who and whether the high school basketball team might actually make it to state this year. The kind of place where a factory closing doesn't just mean lost jobs, it means lost hope, lost pride, lost identity. The town's main street tells the story in storefronts. Hanson's Hardware, family-owned for 3 generations, now sports a closing sale banner. The old Woolworths has been empty for 2 years. Even the McDonald's looks tired. Its golden arches faded to a dull yellow that matches the January sky. But Lincoln High School still stands proud, all red brick and American tradition, its flag snapping in the bitter wind. This is where dreams get made or broken, where kids figure out who they're going to be in the world. It's also where Dela has just discovered that being different isn't just lonely, it can be dangerous. She moved here 3 weeks ago when her father, a software engineer, got transferred to manage the regional office of a tech company that was expanding into America's heartland. What that really meant was cheaper overhead and desperate workers willing to accept lower wages. But Robert saw an opportunity to finally be the big fish in a small pond, to give his family a chance at something more authentic than California's rat race. You'll love it, he'd promised Dela and her 18-year-old brother Jake as they loaded the U-Haul. Real winters, real community, real values. Real values. Dela almost laughs at the memory as she watches a group of girls at the next table whisper and point in her direction. Real values, like making sure the new girl knows exactly where she stands in the social hierarchy. The thing about Dela that nobody in Madison knows yet, the thing that would change everything if they did, is that she's been studying Taekwondo since she was 8 years old. Not the strip mall, birthday party kind of martial arts, but the real thing, Master Kim's dojang in San Diego, where discipline wasn't just about perfect kicks and precise forms. It was about understanding that true strength protects others, never hurts them. Martial arts is not for fighting, Master Kim used to say, his weathered hands adjusting her stance for the 1,000th time. It is for protecting. First, you protect yourself. Then, you protect others. But you never, ever use it to harm the innocent. 8 years of that philosophy. 8 years of learning that the most dangerous person in any room is often the one who looks like they couldn't hurt a fly. 8 years of a moral code that says violence is always the last resort. And then, only when all other options have been exhausted. Dela glances at her phone. 2:15. 45 minutes until school ends. Until she has to navigate that parking lot again. Yesterday, someone had written, "Go home, California," on her locker in what looked suspiciously like ketchup, but might have been something worse. The day before, her lunch tray had been accidentally knocked out of her hands by a kid named Brett, who apologized with a smirk that suggested he wasn't sorry at all. Small things. Escalating things. The kind of things that adults dismiss as kids being kids, but that feel like dying by 1,000 cuts when you're living them. She hasn't told her parents. Her mom, Linda, is already struggling with the transition, missing her book club, her Pilates class, her Tuesday coffee dates with friends she'd known for 15 years. Her dad is working 16-hour days, trying to prove himself to a company that views him as an expensive import from a world they don't quite trust. And Jake. Well, Jake's got his own problems. He deferred his college acceptance to help with the move. And now he's working at the local auto parts store, watching his high school friends head off to universities while he's stuck selling spark plugs to farmers who still think California is full of nothing but fruits and nuts. The cafeteria is starting to empty now. Students bundling back into their winter gear for the trek to afternoon classes. Dela finishes her hot chocolate 75 cents from a machine that probably hasn't been serviced since the Clinton administration and gathers her things. She's got AP History next, where she'll sit in the back and try to look invisible while Mrs. Patterson talks about the Industrial Revolution and the transformation of American society. The irony isn't lost on her. She's living through her own transformation, though not the kind her parents envisioned. As she stands to leave, Dela catches sight of him across the cafeteria. Cody Peterson, 6'2", broad shoulders from 4 years of varsity basketball, and a reputation that precedes him like a storm front. He's got that particular swagger that comes from being somebody in a place where there aren't many somebodies to choose from. Star athlete, decent grades, family name that still means something in Madison, even if their money's long gone. But it's not his size or his status that makes Dela's pulse quicken slightly. It's the way he's looking at her. Not curious, not friendly, not even dismissive. There's something else in those pale blue eyes. Something that makes her think of winter storms and power lines down. Cody's talking to his usual crew, Tyler Brooks, whose dad owns the biggest farm in the county, Mason Webb, who's been held back twice and looks like he shaves with a chainsaw, and Brett Patterson. Yes, related to the history teacher, which explains how he gets away with about half the stuff he pulls. They're not looking at her directly, but she can feel the weight of their attention like a physical thing. She's seen this before, back in San Diego. The moment when someone decides you're not just different, but wrong. When your existence becomes a problem that needs solving. Dela shoulders her backpack, a bright blue JanSport, that screams outsider in a place where most kids carry beaten-up Carhartt and heads for the door. She's learned not to make eye contact, not to move too fast or too slow, not to do anything that might be interpreted as a challenge or an invitation. But as she passes their table, she hears Cody's voice, pitched just loud enough for her to catch. Princess thinks she's too good for Wisconsin winter. Someone should teach her how we do things around here. If you've ever felt like an outsider looking in, or watched someone you care about struggle to find their place, this story is going to hit different. Before we dive in, I'd love to hear from you. Hit that like button if you're ready for a story about finding strength you never knew you had. And subscribe, because we're building a community of people who believe stories can change how we see the world. Drop a comment and tell me about a time when you had to stand up for yourself or someone else. And if this story moves you, consider hitting the thanks button below the video. It helps me keep bringing you these real, raw stories about the moments that shape us into who we're meant to become. Thank you for being here. Laughter follows her into the hallway, the kind that has teeth. If Dela turned around right then, if she looked back through the cafeteria windows, she'd see Cody pulling out his phone, fingers flying across the screen. She'd see Tyler leaning in, nodding at whatever plan is being hatched. She'd see Mason cracking his knuckles, a habit he's had since middle school, when he first discovered that sometimes intimidation works better than intelligence. But she doesn't turn around. She walks to AP History with her head high and her California Sunshine t-shirt bright against the gray hallway walls, completely unaware that across town, in a house where the heat's been turned down to save money and foreclosure notices are stacked on the kitchen table like unwanted Christmas cards, someone is planning the kind of lesson that leaves marks you carry for the rest of your life. Cody Peterson's bedroom tells a story of better times. Basketball trophies line the shelves: MVP, regional champion, scholar, athlete. College recruitment letters from schools he'll never be able to afford. Even with a scholarship that covers tuition, but not the rest of life's expenses. A photo of him with his dad at a Packers game, both of them grinning. Back when Richard Peterson still had a job at the plant and could afford season tickets. That was before the factory closure. Before his mom started working double shifts at Walmart and coming home too tired to ask about homework or basketball or anything else that used to matter. Before his 13-year-old sister, Emma, started asking why they couldn't afford school lunch anymore. Why her friends' parents whispered when she walked by. Why their house felt cold all the time, even when the heat was on. Cody stares at his phone, scrolling through Della Alice's sparse social media presence. California beaches, perfect weather, a house with a pool. For God's sake, a life that looks like something from a movie, not like the slow-motion disaster his own life has become. The thing about being 17 and watching your world collapse is that you need someone to blame. And when someone shows up wearing sunshine in the middle of your winter, looking like everything you used to have and everything you'll never get back, that blame finds a target. He types a message to the group chat, after school, parking lot. Time to welcome California to Wisconsin. 3 responses come back immediately. Tyler with a thumbs up, Mason with a flame emoji, Brett with a simple, about time. None of them stops to think about consequences. None of them considers that some people are exactly who they appear to be, and some people are something else entirely. The afternoon crawls by with the particular agony of anticipation. Della sits through history, chemistry, and English literature, absorbing information about dead presidents, molecular structures, and tragic heroes without really hearing any of it. Her mind keeps drifting to Cody's words in the cafeteria, to the way his friends had laughed, to the feeling that something is building like pressure in a storm system. She's felt this before, this particular quality of attention, back in San Diego, when she was 14 and Marcus Rivera decided that the quiet girl in the corner needed to be taught a lesson about respect. That situation had ended with Marcus flat on his back in the school courtyard, staring up at the sky with a bloody nose and a new understanding of why it's dangerous to mistake silence for weakness. But this feels different, bigger, more personal. When the final bell rings at 3:15, Della doesn't rush to her locker like most students. She takes her time, organizing her books, checking her phone for messages that don't exist, waiting for the hallways to clear. Experience has taught her that delayed exits often avoid problems entirely. But as she finally makes her way toward the main doors, she realizes that delay might not be enough this time. The parking lot is nearly empty. Most students have cleared out quickly, eager to get home before the storm gets worse. The snow is falling harder now, thick flakes that stick to everything they touch, muffling sound and turning the world into something that looks peaceful but feels dangerous. Dela's car, a 7-year-old Honda Civic that's reliable if not impressive, sits in the far corner of the lot, exactly where her father had taught her to park. "Always leave yourself room to maneuver," he'd said. "Never let anyone box you in." She's halfway to the car when she realizes she's not alone. They emerge from behind the maintenance building like wolves who've been waiting for the right moment. Cody in the center, his leather jacket making him look even bigger against the white landscape. Tyler to his left, nervous energy crackling around him like electricity. Mason and Brett flanking them, moving with the kind of coordination that suggests this isn't their first time hunting in a pack. Dela stops walking. Every sense comes alive, the particular quality of the light, the way the snow crunches under their boots, the smell of cold and approaching violence. Her heart rate elevates, but it's controlled, focused. 8 years of training have taught her body to be ready even when her mind is still hoping this won't go where it seems to be going. "Well, well," Cody calls out, his voice carrying easily across the empty space. "If it isn't California royalty, nice coat, princess. Daddy buy that for you." Dela looks down at herself. She's wearing the new winter coat her parents had bought her specifically for Wisconsin weather, a North Face jacket that cost $200 and probably looks like a fortune to kids whose families are struggling. She hadn't thought about that when she put it on this morning. In California, it would have been unremarkable. Here, it might as well be a neon sign advertising her family's relative prosperity. "It's just a coat," she says quietly, not moving closer but not backing away either. "Just a coat," Mason repeats, his voice mocking. "Must be nice, having money for just a coat when some of us are wearing hand-me-downs from our older brothers." "Or from Goodwill," Brett adds, and there's real bitterness in his voice. "But you wouldn't know anything about that, would you?" "Princess." Dela takes a breath, choosing her words carefully. De-escalation is always the first option. "I know things have been hard here. My dad mentioned the factory closing. I'm sorry about that." Wrong thing to say. She realizes it the moment the words leave her mouth, the moment she sees Cody's expression shift from calculated aggression to genuine anger. "You're sorry!" He starts walking toward her, his friends spreading out in a loose semicircle. "Your daddy mentioned it like it's some kind of news story to you people. That's not what I meant." "That's exactly what you meant." Cody's close enough now that she can see the details of his face, the jawline that's still got some baby fat, the acne scars he tries to hide, the eyes that are red-rimmed from cold, or maybe from something else. "You roll into our town with your expensive car and your expensive clothes and your daddy's expensive job, and you think you can just feel sorry for us, like we're some kind of charity case." Dela's training kicks in automatically. Assess the situation. 4 against 1. But only one real threat. Cody's the leader. Take him down, and the others will likely back off. Exit routes, her car is 20 feet away, but she'd have to get through them to reach it. The school building is closer, but the doors might be locked. Environmental factors, snow and ice, make footing treacherous. They're all wearing boots. She's in sneakers that were fine for California, but are a liability here. The heavy coat will restrict her movement. but it might also provide some protection. Most importantly, intention. Are they planning to just humiliate her? Or is this something worse? She gets her answer when Cody reaches out and grabs the front of her jacket. "Let's see how much this fancy coat means to you," he says, and yanks hard enough to spin her around. That's when Dela Alice, who has spent 8 years learning to be the person who protects others, discovers what happens when you become the person who needs protecting. And there's nobody there to do it but you. The first rule of self-defense that Master Kim taught her comes back with crystalline clarity. Never let them take you to a second location. Never let them isolate you. And never, ever let them strip away your dignity without a fight. As Cody's grip tightens on her coat and his friends close in, Dela realizes that all 3 of those lines have just been crossed. The question now isn't whether she's going to fight back. The question is whether 4 kids who think they're teaching a lesson are ready to learn one instead. Snow continues to fall around them, muffling the sound of what's about to happen, creating a white curtain that will hide this moment from the rest of the world. In the distance, a snowplow scrapes its way down Main Street, its orange lights flashing like a beacon from a world where adults solve problems and children go home safe. But that world feels very far away right now. Dela looks at each of their faces. Cody's anger, Tyler's uncertainty, Mason's anticipation, Brett's cruel excitement, and makes a choice that will change all of their lives forever. She stops trying to de-escalate, and for the first time in 8 years of training, Dela Alice decides that, maybe, sometimes, the best way to protect someone is to make sure the people hurting them never want to try it again. The lesson is about to begin, but it won't be the one any of them expected. The first handful of snow hits Dela's face like a slap of reality. Cody has ripped her jacket completely off now, the expensive North Face coat disappearing into the snowbank like it was never worth anything at all. The January air cuts through her California Sunshine t-shirt like a blade, and she can already feel her body starting to react to the cold muscles tightening. Breath coming shorter. That particular kind of panic that sets in when your core temperature starts to drop. "There we go," Cody says, his voice thick with satisfaction. "Now, you look more like you belong here." But they're not done. Tyler grabs her left arm while Mason takes her right. And suddenly, Dela understands that this isn't just about humiliation. This is about power, about making her small, about taking someone who represents everything they can't have and breaking her down until she's nothing. Brett pulls out his phone, the camera already recording. "This is going to be epic," he says, grinning. California princess learns some Wisconsin respect. That's when they push her. Dela goes down hard, face first into the snowbank that's been building against the maintenance building all winter. The snow is deeper than she expected, almost 2 feet, and it's not the fluffy, movie-perfect snow she imagined winter would be. It's heavy, wet, the kind that soaks through everything and steals heat from your body like a living thing. She tries to push herself up, but Mason puts his boot on her back, pressing her down. "Stay down, princess. We're not done with your lesson yet." Tyler produces a water bottle from his backpack, and Dela's heart sinks as she realizes what's about to happen. The water is ice cold, probably been sitting in his locker all day, and when he pours it down the back of her t-shirt, the shock of it drives the air from her lungs in a gasp that sounds almost like a scream. "How's that California tan working out for you now?" Brett asks, still filming, capturing every moment of her humiliation for posterity. The cold is becoming dangerous now. Dela can feel her body starting to shut down, her fingers going numb, her thinking becoming fuzzy around the edges. Hypothermia doesn't take long in conditions like this, 10 degrees below zero, with wet clothes and no protection. She's got maybe minutes before this goes from assault to something much worse. Cody kneels down in the snow beside her, his face close enough that she can see the anger that goes deeper than anything she's done or represents. This isn't about her at all, she realizes. This is about everything he's lost, everything he can't control, everything that's been taken away from him. She's just convenient. "You want to know what real winter feels like?" he asks, grabbing a handful of snow and pressing it against her face. "This is Wisconsin, princess. This is what it's like when you can't just buy your way out of problems." He holds the snow against her face until she can't breathe, until panic starts to claw at her chest. When he finally pulls his hand away, she gasps for air. And that's when Tyler kicks more snow into her face, filling her mouth and nose with ice that tastes like dirt and exhaust fumes. "Strip the shirt too," Mason suggests, his voice carrying an edge that makes this about more than just cold. Let's see how tough she really is. And that's the moment everything changes. Because Dela Alice, who has spent 8 years learning to control herself, to be disciplined, to only fight when absolutely necessary, suddenly understands that necessary has arrived. Master Kim's voice echoes in her head, but not the gentle lessons about protection and discipline. Instead, she hears something he told her once when she was 15 and asked him about real violence, real danger. When someone tries to take your dignity, your safety, your life, that's when martial arts becomes about survival. And survival has no rules except one, whatever it takes, to go home safe. She stops struggling, stops trying to get up, goes completely limp in the snow. And for a moment, the boys think they've won, that they've broken her. They have no idea what they've actually done. Dela closes her eyes and does something she learned in her very first month of training. She breathes. Long, controlled breaths that slow her heart rate, clear her mind, bring her body back under her control. The cold is still there, still dangerous, but it's not panic anymore. It's just another environmental factor to account for. When she opens her eyes, she's not the scared girl from California anymore. She's something else entirely. The first move is deceptively simple. Tyler is standing closest to her head, phone still out, filming what he thinks is their victory. Dela sweeps his legs with a technique she's practiced 10,000 times. But now, it's not about points in a tournament or impressing her instructor. It's about survival. Tyler goes down hard, his phone flying through the air to land screen first in the snow. The crack of plastic breaking is audible even over the wind. Mason still has his foot on her back, which turns out to be a mistake. Dela grabs his ankle and twists, using his own weight and the slippery conditions against him. 8 years of learning how to manipulate leverage and momentum pays off as he crashes into the snowbank beside her, his head disappearing completely beneath the surface. She's up now, snow falling from her hair, her t-shirt soaked and clinging to her skin, but her stance is perfect, balanced, ready. Brett takes a step back, suddenly realizing that something fundamental has shifted. "What the hell?" Dela doesn't let him finish. She covers the distance between them in 2 quick steps, footwork that would have made Master Kim proud, and delivers a strike to his solar plexus that doubles him over and sends him to his knees, gasping for air in the frigid cold. But Cody is the real threat, and they both know it. He's bigger, stronger, and he's not confused about what's happening. His face has gone from satisfied to furious, and Dela can see in his eyes that this has just escalated far beyond anything he planned. "You think you're tough," he snarls, advancing on her with his fists raised. "You think your daddy's money taught you how to fight?" "No," Dela says quietly, her voice steady despite the cold, despite the adrenaline, despite everything that's happened in the last 5 minutes. "My sensei taught me how to protect myself. There's a difference." Cody throws a wild haymaker, the kind of punch that might work in a bar fight or against someone who doesn't know what they're doing. But Dela has sparred with black belts who could have put her in the hospital if they wanted to. An angry teenager throwing wild punches isn't even close to the same thing. She deflects his punch with her forearm, redirects his momentum, and suddenly, Cody Peterson, star athlete, king of Madison High School, finds himself face first in the same snowbank where they tried to humiliate her. But Dela doesn't stop there. This isn't about winning points anymore. This is about making sure this never happens again, to her or to anyone else. She puts him in a submission hold, nothing that will cause permanent damage, but something that makes it very clear who's in control now. Cody struggles against it for a moment, then goes still as he realizes he can't break free. "How does it feel?" Dela asks, her voice barely above a whisper. "How does it feel to be helpless, to have someone bigger and stronger decide what happens to you?" For a moment, the only sound is the wind and their breathing, harsh and visible in the cold air. Then Cody Peterson, star athlete and small-town king, starts to cry. Not from physical pain, though the cold and the submission hold are certainly uncomfortable, but from something deeper, from the sudden, overwhelming realization of what he's become, what he's done, what his pain has turned him into. "I can't," he whispers, his voice breaking. "I can't even protect my own family. We're losing the house. Mom works 2 jobs, and it's still not enough. Em asks me why we don't have heat, and I don't know what to tell her. I don't know what to tell anyone." Dela feels something she didn't expect: compassion. This boy who tried to hurt her, who humiliated her, who could have seriously injured her with hypothermia, he's not a monster. He's just broken. She releases the hold and steps back, but stays ready. Cody doesn't get up. He just sits in the snow, shoulders shaking, looking younger than his 17 years. "Hurting me won't fix your problems," Dela says gently. "But maybe I can help." Hitch and Mason are picking themselves up out of the snow, looking confused and ashamed. Brett is still on his knees, staring at all of them like he's seeing something he doesn't understand. "I don't want your charity," Cody says, but there's no anger in it anymore, just exhaustion. "Not charity," Dela replies. "Community. My dad's company is hiring. They need people who know the area, who understand the community. And there are other things we can do. Fundraisers, support networks, ways to help families who are struggling without making it about handouts." She looks around at all of them. 4 kids who tried to hurt her and ended up revealing how much they were hurting themselves. "You want to know the real difference between California and Wisconsin?" she asks. "Back home, when someone's struggling, they suffer alone. Here, people are supposed to look out for each other. That's what my dad said. Anyway, that's what he was hoping for when we moved here." A car door slams in the distance. They all turn to see Mrs. Hart, the school counselor, walking quickly across the parking lot. Madison Walsh is with her. Dela recognizes her from English class, and she's carrying what looks like a camera or phone. "I filmed it," Madison says as they get closer. "All of it, from the library window." Mrs. Hart takes in the scene, Dela soaked and shivering. The boys scattered around the snowbank. The obvious signs of a fight, and her expression, is a mixture of concern and something that might be pride. "Ms. Alice, you need to get warm immediately," she says, taking off her own coat and wrapping it around Dela's shoulders. "And all of you boys need to think very carefully about whether you want this video to end up with the police, or if you'd prefer to handle this another way." Cody looks up at Dela, something like respect in his eyes for the first time. What kind of other way? Dela pulls Mrs. Hart's coat tighter around her shoulders and looks at each of them in turn. "The kind where we figure out how to fix what's broken, instead of just punishing what's wrong." 2 weeks later, Dela stands in the Lincoln High School gymnasium after hours, watching a group of students practice basic self-defense moves. Madison is there, finally finding her voice after years of staying silent. Tyler came the first day and hasn't missed a session since. Even Mason shows up sometimes, though he's still working through his anger issues with Mrs. Hart. Brett decided he didn't want any part of what he calls California feelings, but he also hasn't bothered anyone since that day in the parking lot. And Cody Peterson is there every day, not as a student, but as a volunteer. He helps set up equipment, assists with basic techniques, and shares his story with kids who are struggling with their own anger and frustration. "Martial arts isn't about fighting," Dela tells the group, echoing Master Kim's words from thousands of miles and what feels like a lifetime away. "It's about discipline, about respect, about protecting people who need protection." She demonstrates a basic escape technique, the same kind of movement she used in the parking lot. But in this context, it's not about violence. It's about empowerment, about giving people tools to keep themselves safe. "The goal isn't to hurt someone," she continues. "The goal is to create space, to get to safety, to make sure everyone goes home in one piece." After class, Cody helps her put away the equipment. They work in comfortable silence for a few minutes before he speaks. "My family got approved for assistance," he says quietly. "Dad found a job with your dad's company. Not great money, but steady. We're going to keep the house." "That's wonderful," Dela says, and means it. "The thing is," Cody continues, "I keep thinking about that day, about what I became, what I was willing to do." He pauses, stacking foam mats with more care than necessary. "How do you forgive someone for that? How do you forgive yourself?" Dela considers the question seriously. It's one she's been wrestling with too, not about forgiving him, which came easier than she expected, but about understanding how pain can turn people into versions of themselves they never meant to become. "I think," she says finally, "forgiveness isn't about pretending something didn't happen. It's about choosing what you do next. You can't change what you did that day, but you can choose who you want to be tomorrow." Cody nods, hefting a box of protective gear. "Your dad was right. You know, about people looking out for each other here. We just forgot for a while. When things got hard, we forgot." Outside, snow is falling again, but it doesn't look threatening anymore. It looks peaceful, transformative, like the kind of snow that covers old wounds and gives everything a chance to start fresh. As they lock up the gym and head toward the parking lot, the same parking lot where everything changed, Dela thinks about the letter she got from Master Kim last week. He'd heard about what happened. Somehow. The martial arts community is smaller than people think, and good news travels as fast as bad news. "I am proud of you," he wrote. "Not because you won a fight, but because you chose to end one. That is the highest achievement in martial arts, to be strong enough to choose peace, even when peace seems impossible." The letter is in her backpack now, next to her homework and her car keys and all the ordinary things that make up a teenager's life. But it reminds her of something important, that strength isn't about what you can do to other people. It's about what you choose not to do, even when you could. Cody walks her to her car, the same Honda Civic that was her destination that day, though now it seems like a different lifetime, before he heads to his own truck. He turns back. "Hey, Dela. Yeah, thank you for teaching us the difference between being strong and being cruel." As she drives home through the gentle snowfall, Dela thinks about lessons learned and second chances, about communities that break and heal and break again, about the strange alchemy that can turn strangers into family when people are willing to choose compassion over comfort. Her parents are waiting when she gets home, dinner warming in the oven, the house filled with the kind of warmth that has nothing to do with temperature. They ask about her day, and for the first time since moving to Wisconsin, she has genuinely good things to tell them. Later that night, she calls Master Kim in San Diego. He listens to her story without interruption, and when she's finished, he's quiet for a long moment. "You understand now," he says finally, "why we train, not for the moment when someone attacks you, but for the moment when you choose how to respond. True strength is not in your fists, Dela. It is in your heart." Outside her window, Wisconsin winter continues its slow transformation into spring. Ice melts, snow gives way to new growth, and somewhere in the distance, a community that forgot how to take care of itself is remembering, one person at a time, and in a small gymnasium where kids come to learn how to protect themselves and others. The lesson continues every day that the strongest person in the room is often the one who chooses not to fight, unless fighting is the only way to protect someone who needs protection. Sometimes the coldest winters lead to the strongest springs. Sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones that teach us who we really are. And sometimes, just sometimes, the girl in the California Sunshine t-shirt turns out to be exactly what a small town in Wisconsin needed all along. And in a small gymnasium where kids come to learn how to protect themselves and others. The lesson continues every day that the strongest person in the room is often the one who chooses not to fight, unless fighting is the only way to protect someone who needs protection. Sometimes the coldest winters lead to the strongest springs. Sometimes the hardest lessons are the ones that teach us who we really are. And sometimes, just sometimes, the girl in the California Sunshine t-shirt turns out to be exactly what a small town in Wisconsin needed all along. 3 months later, the Madison High School Self-Defense Program has a waiting list. Students from neighboring towns drive over after school to participate. Mrs. Hart secured funding for a peer mediation program that's already preventing conflicts before they escalate. The local newspaper ran a feature story about community healing that got picked up by state media. But the real change isn't in the headlines or the programs. It's in the way Tyler now speaks up when he sees someone being targeted. It's in how Madison Walsh started a support group for kids dealing with family financial stress. It's in Cody Peterson coaching middle school basketball and teaching those kids that being a leader means protecting others, not intimidating them. Most importantly, it's in the understanding that strength and vulnerability aren't opposites, they're partners. that admitting you're hurting doesn't make you weak, it makes you human, and that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is ask for help instead of trying to solve your pain by causing someone else's.